Are we alone in the universe? Those involved in the search for extraterrestrial life have been increasingly sharing the view that mankind is not ready for contact with alien civilization. It becomes obvious the moment we put the dreams and imagination aside and delve into the scientific approach. Not only can the search for intelligent civilizations be fruitless, but it can also lead to opening the door that we are not ready to walk through. What mysteries actually hide behind the cosmic silence? And why do we put so much effort into coming in contact with extraterrestrial beings, knowing that we may never achieve this goal? After spending years exploring the possibilities of coming into contact with extraterrestrial beings, scientists have come to surprising conclusions. Let's imagine that alien civilization is at the same level of technological advancement as us, and their spacecrafts fly at the same speeds as ours. Turns out, intelligent life with this advancement level needs less than 1 billion years to spread across a galaxy of the same size as ours. Just look at how fast the galaxy would actually have been inhabited by any civilization of this caliber. But if that were the case, why are we not seeing this lively galaxy around us? To answer this question, we'll need to take a look at the Kardashev scale. The majority of modern scientists use this scale to measure the potential ability of living organisms to colonize the surrounding space and, subsequently, the possibility of contact with other life forms. This scale gives its own answer as to why we are not seeing this image of populated space all around us. Kardashev proposed to measure a civilization's level of technological advancement based on how efficiently it uses its energy resources. According to this scale, a Type 1 civilization can learn to utilize all the energy it can harvest on its home planet, radiating from its parent star. This type of civilization is most likely ready for interplanetary travel and, at some point down the line, will be able to colonize its entire system. For context, we only use 73% of the planet's energy potential, whereas the amount of energy we learn to harness from the sun is less than 0.1%. Turns out, we're still on level 0 according to this scale. Civilizations that have reached the status of Type 2 are capable of capturing energy, not only on their home planet, but also any energy they could harness within their star system, or at the very least, they're close to being able to do that. In their search for this type of civilization, scientists are on the lookout for a Dyson sphere, a hypothetical artificial structure that would allow the civilization to harness all of the star's energy from within the system. These civilizations would be capable of interstellar travel. They will have actively colonized their own galaxy and possibly moved on to colonizing the surrounding areas, which would allow them to keep increasing the amount of energy that they could use, as well as using all of the energy of their star system. Type 3 civilizations are able to harness the energy from neighboring systems, control the energy of their entire galaxy, or even the entire universe. These civilizations are able to not only control this energy, but possibly change entire worlds. There's a simple reason as to why communicating with the Type 1 civilization is problematic. Upon calculating the capacity at which we can transmit and receive signals in space, we come to find that the maximum visibility of the Earth's energy activity radio signals, lasers, electric activity is very limited. We can only be seen or heard from a distance of 4 light years. The noise we create could only be heard by our closest neighbors, who have reached the same level of development. A Type 2 civilization would be able to hear us from much further away. They would also be able to ensure they remain unnoticed, either because of the great distance or because they wish to keep it that way. After 60 years of transmitting various signals and scanning the skies trying to detect artificial signals, we haven't been able to find anything, and we remain unheard. Thank you. The paradox of the Great Silence was first raised by legendary physicist Enrico Fermi. Speaking to his colleagues once, he raised a seemingly simple question: where are the aliens, and why have they not been to visit us? However, when you consider our civilization's level of development, the answer is pretty obvious. Why would they? The logistics required for interstellar travel are only available to civilizations that have reached Type 2, at least, and in their eyes, we're not worth it. What person in their right mind would try to communicate with ants? How would an ant be able to recognize that someone's trying to communicate with it? After all, in terms of our development and technological advancement compared to them, we're akin to highly developed ants that have taken over an entire planet, not to mention the ineffective use of said planet's potential. Other civilizations that, like us, haven't yet reached Type 1, stay confined to their own planet and star system. It's simply unrealistic to expect any guest from a place like that. It is possible that right at this moment, they're working on the same problems as we are: starvation, fighting for resources, and pursuing minor and major wars for territories. And so, it appears that Type 1 civilizations would simply have other things to worry about. However, is it possible that someone could have overcome those issues and decided to launch themselves into space? The data presented by the scientists suggests we may, in fact, have a surprisingly large number of neighbors. As we lift our gaze to the cloudless sky, we can imagine how many potential inhabited planets there are. What we see in the sky is only 1% of our own galaxy, the Milky Way. Even if only 1% of these worlds are inhabited and populated with conscious life, that would amount to around 100,000 intelligent civilizations that could exist in our galaxy alone. And they all remain silent. There are a vast number of solutions to Fermi's paradox, because there are around 100 scientific theories alone that attempt to explain this silence. Let's break down the most interesting of those theories. There are no signs of Type 2 or Type 3 civilizations because they don't exist. The scientific analysis tells us there are thousands of civilizations in our galaxy alone. Hence, they presume that there is a factor that stands in the way of their development. This factor is called the Great Filter. This theory suggests that after reaching a certain level of development, life faces an obstacle that's impossible to overcome. However, scientists don't know what this great filter may be. The possibilities are only limited by our imagination from artificial intelligence, which cleanses the overly developed organic life from the galaxy to various forms of apocalypse. The most unfortunate thing about this theory is that if true, humanity is faced with three possible prospects in the future. According to the first scenario, we as humanity are a unique life form that has managed to overcome the big hurdle of the Great Filter. That would mean that reaching our level of progress is very challenging, and the chances of it happening are very low. In this case, the cosmic silence would be caused by the majority of civilizations failing to overcome the Great Filter, hence we simply have nobody to come in contact with. The second scenario suggests that we happen to be the first ones among our neighbors to advance to this level. This would be due to the fact that the conditions necessary for the existence of conscious life had only been established relatively recently, and we happen to be the pioneers of this progress. In this case, we simply found ourselves in the right place at the right time to have become one of the first ultra-intelligent civilizations. It also means we have plenty of time to advance to become a Type 2 and Type 3 civilization. That's the reason why there's no hope for contact. We are progressing faster than any other organic form of life since the Big Bang. The third scenario presented by scientists is more pessimistic. They reckon that if we were not the first ones to reach this level of advancement in this rare sequence of cosmic events, and the Great Filter is still ahead of us, they think that life evolves at regular intervals until it reaches a certain stage, which is where we stand now. Whatever or whoever it is, it presents a challenge that prevents life from evolving to a Type 1 civilization. And it's unlikely that we would be an exception to this rule. Those favoring the third hypothesis believe that the cosmic silence is great news for us. After all, the presence of complex life on Mars, the Moon, or somewhere else means that the Great Filter is bound to be ahead of us. There's also an opposing viewpoint. According to it, Type 2 and Type 3 civilizations do exist, and we haven't come across them for a reason. This is based mainly upon the fact that we're very much limited in our search. After all, we are searching for the signals that are only 100 light-years away from us, which represents a mere 0.1% of our galaxy. The most interesting theories resulting from this version sound like this: the galaxy has long been colonized. And to the colonizers themselves, we are located in a low-interest, deserted area. The perfect example of a similar situation happened in Earth's history: colonization of North America. Native Americans residing in the remote parts of the continent only learned about the presence of their neighbors, super-developed Europeans, several decades after the latter arrived on the continent. It's also possible the activity is present around our system. We're simply too primitive to understand these signals, or we are focusing our efforts elsewhere. That would be like trying to communicate with people using the internet via Morse code. It is equally possible that our minds differ so greatly compared to other life forms that our attempts to establish contact come across as senseless noise. Another interesting hypothesis is the cosmic zoo theory, which states that we are actually surrounded by a densely populated galaxy. Within this world, Earth is something akin to a wildlife reserve, the kind you could watch, but you're not allowed to go on a safari ride or make contact with such a primitive life form. And still, every attempt to explain this paradox inevitably comes to a stop. We still know very little about space, and we have not yet evolved to the level necessary for resolving these problems. But that doesn't mean that our attempts to find intelligent life have stopped, and humanity is frozen in place, waiting for outside contact. There are currently at least 2 projects that have spent several decades trying to establish contact and search for extraterrestrial life. These are the projects SETI and METI. The work of these 2 projects is based on the Drake equation, a mathematical formula that suggests it's possible to accurately calculate the number and, more importantly, the potential location of inhabited worlds. The next step is to use this information to reach out. According to this equation, our galaxy hosts between 8 and 2,900 systems of intelligent life. As science evolved and our knowledge about our galaxy grew, the calculations became more precise. Realistically, there should be 36 other brother worlds coexisting with us in the Milky Way galaxy. The SETI project started in 1984, and at first, it focused on scanning our immediate surroundings, in search of artificial radio signals coming from our potential neighbors. However, no signals were found. Right now, the major hope is that the European Space Telescope Gaia will bring some results. It's able to transmit information about the exact location of all stars in our galaxy, and give an accurate assessment of every star system's potential. That's why the SETI project was able to move on from a rough estimation of various star systems to a detailed analysis of each one, thanks to technological advancement. And now, every signal sent out there is directed towards the systems with the highest likelihood of intelligent life. Will we get a response from any of them? The answer to this is both yes and no. Some of the systems we have already researched are so far away that any response from them would take over 3,600 years to reach Earth. And last, but not least, the mission of METI is also very important. After all, they help by trying to capture any messages from space and send our greetings to distant stars. We know of at least 8 attempted communications, 2 of which are the famous gold records on the Voyager probes and similar ones on the Pioneers. The other 6 are messages contained in radio signals directed towards some stars. For example, to one of the nearest solar-type stars, Gliese 581. So far, there have been about 40 radio sessions in total. We're unlikely to hear a response to them, but it is possible that our descendants might. To sum up the results of our small study, we can say quite definitely that the silence of the universe is normal. It's also possible that we have not yet sufficiently evolved to make contact with the intelligence around us, or even that the cosmos itself is not yet ready for this. Which one of these scenarios is the most likely? Are we a unique species, or has the entire space been colonized by super-developed civilizations for a long while? We are close to uncovering the answers to these questions. But are we ready for this contact?